Hey everyone, thanks for catching another episode of Shake Sales. I'm your host, Maggie Bloom. I'm the sales evangelist at Mailshake. And today we have another Maggie here. She is a manager of enterprise SDRs at Automox. So Maggie, thanks so much for being here. Do you mind taking some time to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Maggie. My name is Maggie Bacon. Love that we both start with MB. I started my sales career actually in a pyramid scheme of some sort, selling Xfinity in Walmarts. When I found out I didn't have health insurance, I decided that it was time to look for something more lucrative that paid me more than like $300 a week. So I was looking through my Penn State network and I found ZoomInfo, which great company to work for, super awesome. I grew my career exponentially fast. I started as an inbound SDR. Worked on the global team, was shortly there put into outbound, team lead, and within 6 months of me starting at ZoomInfo, I was leading the global sales team. So I was able to help scale that team from about 3 inbound SDRs to outbound SDRs. And when I ended up essentially leaving ZoomInfo, we had, I believe, 12 outbound reps, 8 inbound reps, and 3 reps in Israel. So my days were definitely busy. I was primarily outbound, which was great. We focused a lot on enterprise, mid-market, and small business. Mainly, I'd say sweet spot, mid-market to enterprise. Essentially, I just wanted to find something as a smaller company that could help grow. And I found Automox. I loved their passion for women in sales, women in tech, their leadership, the qualities. I loved the tool, the patching capabilities, and what the tool can do for you, giving you time and money back in your IT teams. I now currently run a team of 6 outbound reps and 1 inbound rep. And while my boss is on paternity, I'm running a couple other inbound reps as well. But yeah, happy at Automox. It's a really great tool, really great company, and they're super supportive of DE&I, women in tech, and everything in between.
Wow, that's awesome. And I love that you started your career at, I think you said Walmart, doing
like
pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it was not, I was stood in Walmart's. You can imagine how fun that was.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure I feel like all of us kind of have those fall into sales jobs like that, or a decent amount of us, but I think that's where you learn a lot and learn what you don't like and where you want to be next. And it sounds like you fell into a great career afterwards and probably motivated you a lot to go through that. But
it's definitely some grit, that's for sure.
Yeah, but that's awesome. I love that, you had this great experience at ZoomInfo, and then you came here and you're at Automox because you really wanted to, start these teams from the ground up. And it seems like you did that at ZoomInfo, even just with your own team there. So amazing. And now you're coaching these reps here. And that's the topic of our conversation today, is managing and coaching enterprise SDRs. So, and I know this is, to kind of get into the first question here, this is a topic that everyone talks about, like SDRs and AEs should get along. They should have this relationship. And I heard you talk about it recently too, and how it's especially important in enterprise sales since there's multi-threading. There's a lot of other steps that are involved with the sales process. But as a manager, how do you foster those relationships between the SDR and the AEs?
Yeah, absolutely. So not to beat a dead horse, but communication is key. So I'm a very transparent manager. I really appreciate being open and honest and just asking the hard questions. So even whether or not my rep is doing poorly or my rep is, smashing quota out of the park, I'm checking in with them. How is your relationship with your AE? Just be honest with me. And I think that comes to the level of trust as a manager. Like, you want to create that level of trust so they feel comfortable telling you if there is a problem. If you don't have that level of trust by asking about their personal and professional goals from the start as a BDR manager, you're not going to have that foundation for them to feel comfortable opening up to you about, if they're having a tough time with their AE, or even if things are going great. So 1, building trust in your BDR. 2, when it comes to their relationship specifically, like I said, I asked them in their one-on-ones, how's your relationship with your AE? We just went through a big org shift a few months ago, so we have a 1-to-1 pairing. So I'm very lucky that for the last few months, they've stayed with their AEs. So it's
Oh,
about
nice.
building that relationship and asking, the BDR, what are your career goals? And talking to the AE, okay, how can we help them get here on the side?
Mm-hmm.
So I also create a relationship with the AE. Not typically the last day of the quarter, the last month of the quarter, excuse me. Do I do this? But typically at the beginning of the quarter, first month and second month, I have a standing meeting with the account executives, and I
Okay.
say, all right, here are the numbers from last month. Here are the numbers from the quarter. Say, um, this is where we need to be. This is where we need to
Mm-hmm.
pace. Can you give me your feedback on positive things, negative things, anything, any feedback you have for me, and anything that you want me to work on to improve going into the quarter?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also ask them like, hey, I'll ask my BDRs for feedback too. In our end of day huddle, I'll say, hey, I'm meeting with the AEs tomorrow. Give me some feedback so I can communicate that with them.
Yeah.
Um, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking it might be a good idea to have a, group call with everyone, but that will write on my to-do list now. However,
Yeah.
that being said, I do it like I create a relationship with the AEs, create a relationship with
Mm.
the BDRs, and then I help mesh it together by just asking the hard questions. What's working? What's not? Where do we need room for improvement?
Mm.
I also have AEs come onto our calls, share best practices, encourage communication. I have them all create an Excel sheet where they can interact with each other. And I'm constantly talking with the DSM, the AE's manager. I can see my cat coming into the camera right now.
You're fine.
So, yeah.
She's on those calls too.
Yeah, she's there, present. She knows as soon as mom's on a Zoom call, she's right there with it, sitting in my lap, waiting for the camera to shine. Um, so it's definitely talking like to the DSM to if there's an issue. Like I've had issues with AEs and BDR relationships before, and
Mm-hmm.
getting to the root of that problem is talking to their manager as well and saying like, hey, like I'm having these kind of communication issues. What are you seeing on your end? Can you help tackle this with me together
Mm-hmm.
so we can work on communication together? Um,
Yeah.
and that's basically, how I do it. And I think a lot of it, ow, her nails, come with building trust with both parties. I mean, I guess all three parties if you're counting the DSM in as well. But
Yeah, absolutely. And that was going to be like my next question because there are those moments that happen with SDRs where, they're not getting along with their AEs or, there's a relationship, there's like a hiccup in the relationship. So what do you typically like, what's the chain of command? Let's say if you're in a meeting with an SDR today and they're like, hey, my AE, I'm having a problem with them showing up to meetings on time, or that's a random one, but like something along those lines, any type of problem that could come up.
yeah, hold on, let me readjust her. So any problem that could come up, not showing up to a meeting. And I would say one that's common is not showing up, canceling one-on-ones. There's standing
Okay.
one-on-ones that they have. I make them the BDR put one-on-ones in the calendar. I make the BDR responsible for them as well to tack on to the last question because it's their agenda. It's their time to pick the brain. It's their time to learn.
Yeah.
Anyway, if those are happening, not happening, those keep constantly getting canceled, anything in between there. And the BDR tells me, I ask them, like, are you having your one-on-ones? What are you doing? Are they having, I will reach out to, next step would be, be forceful. I'll encourage, not forceful, that's an aggressive way to put it, but I'll encourage the BDR to be open with the AE. Like, hey, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Just because
Yeah.
you're account executive does not mean that you can't stand up for yourself too. Have a voice. And I encourage that. Hey, put me in a Slack chain with, yourself, the AE, and the man and me, and say like, hey, like one-on-one would really be nice this week. Even put the DSM in there as well. One-on-one really needed next week. Can we make sure to make this a priority because it's important for me? Making sure that the BDR has a voice. And then B would be going, not that I go to the AE first because I've had
Okay.
this happen before. Go
Yeah.
to the AE first and just say, hey, what's going on? I know it's crazy. It might be end of quarter. Like sympathize with them, empathize with them, understand that they have a busy calendar. They're closing deals. They have a lot going on. But hey, as XYZ's manager, like they really need your support right now and they could use your help, your guidance and your continued learning. So even if you have to cut the call short, can you just make this a priority next week? If
Yeah.
then there continues to be an issue, I will reach out to the DSM and just see if there's any way that we can tag team it to get them to be collaborating a little bit more.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that process, encouraging your SDRs to have that voice because I think a lot of the times it can get skipped over from the manager to just kind of, hey, my SDR is busy, let me try to manage this, but you're giving them the skills to later on become a manager or be comfortable talking in that position with that AE. And it's also giving them the same level of playing field, because I think a lot of times people can view SDRs, I've been viewed as an SDR as like a meeting booker, appointment setter, things like that. So love the process that you go through for that. Awesome.
Yeah, and it definitely does help them. I always think about how can I involve them to the next step of their career, and I think it's extremely important for them to feel like they have a voice all the time, whether it's with me, whether it's with the account executive. And yeah, they're not just there to book meetings and, be a secretary. They're there to learn. And I mean, to be quite frank, there are BDRs. I know a couple BDRs and SDRs that want to be forever BDRs and SDRs that make great money doing it, and they're happy in their jobs, and that's all they want to do. And it's like, you have to respect that. You have to respect any SDR, any BDR across the board. And sometimes that gets lost in translation, but I do feel, especially, in the companies that I've worked at, that there's a high level of respect there. Sometimes it gets lost in translation, but it's just about realigning expectations and making, say it again, but expectations clear.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. And yeah, like you said, kind of giving them a little bit more to grasp onto if that's something that they want to do in the future. So you're just thinking about their growth in the back end, but cool. So for me, I've never sold into enterprise before. So that's why I was super excited about this conversation. But, I know a lot of times, even just with myself, when I was an SDR, it can be really scary to stray away from templates or talk tracks that I was taught, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I want to put some creativity into this. I want to put some of my own personality, but I'm really nervous because this is what's worked, And I can't even imagine, like, at the enterprise level, it can seem a bit more scary because, these are bigger deals. You're talking with maybe like VP or, at these bigger companies. So as an enterprise manager, how do you encourage your reps to use creativity when they're doing outreach?
Absolutely. So I love this question because I encourage creativity always and often, all the time. The way I phrase it to them is because a lot of BDRs, they were looking for that next role. Like I said, I mean, there's that few and far between that want to stay BDRs, SDRs. But I phrase it to them as like, what would you do in your next role to get creative? You can apply this to your next role. Always applying it back to that career growth, because that's what they're really looking for. Yeah. But also, I just encourage that because it's fun. It's fun trying something new. And that being said, I also show them creative things to do. A new search in LinkedIn. A new way to look in the ZoomInfo platform, a new type of messaging. Hey, we're going to send GIFs today. First person to make their own GIF or meme that books a meeting from it gets some money, incentivizing it and making it fun for them. But they enjoy doing it because, they work at a company, they believe in the product. And so the way to make the product fun to them is fun. So it's just it kind of phrasing it as way as, you're putting fun into work. Even if it's not a GIF or a meme, like trying something new and seeing that it reaps the benefits is awesome. So one thing I encourage the team to do every time that they book a meeting, specifically on my team, they'll throw on the Slack channel, name prospect, or name the account, title of the prospect, method booked. And
awesome.
Yeah, so it shows like they share with each other. So they'll always share messaging. Oh, I use this GIF, or I use this meme, or hey, I use this template, or this is the pushback that I used. Hey, I have this pushback. It's really been working lately. Can we throw this into a template in outreach for us, Maggie? Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, I made this sequence and it's been popping off. I've been sending this gift because we have a gifting service
awesome.
that we use. I sent this gift with this messaging and it really resonated with the prospect. So getting them to communicate with each other. So they'll see each other being creative, and it kind of, sales is naturally competitive. So they get excited and they're like, oh, they did it. I want to do it too. I'm going to do it better. Because it's that natural competitive nature where they, kind of fosters that communication and wanting to do more and get better. And they use each other's tips and tricks, and it works, and it's really awesome.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's the perfect mix of how you have your team set up is, hey, let's share our successes. Let's share how we got there, which is that whole team camaraderie, which sometimes doesn't exist on teams where it is just 100% competitive. And hopefully it's not 100%, but I think we've all been there maybe in some situations where it is a bit more like competitive feeling than, we're working together. But it sounds like the perfect mix of like, hey, let's have this rep share what they did but then some of your reps are motivated, like, how can I do this better? Because of course there's always natural competition in sales, with numbers and things like that too.
But we only win together, the team
Yeah.
wins together. And that's, a big push. Our CRO, Jeff St. Clair, he always pushes team, because we win together, we lose together. And if we're all winning together, the whole company's winning. So if we're trying those tactics that works and we're trying new things and we're getting ahead of the curve and seeing things on LinkedIn, tagging each other in the posts, like, hey guys, try this talk track, or hey guys, look at this really cool post, or hey guys, look at this motivation, look at this, if you're all doing those things and constantly learning from each other, that you're growing pipeline, you're bringing in deals, you're getting creative, and you're only expanding your knowledge and getting that, 1% better every day.
Yeah. One team, one dream. But yeah. And so bringing in creativity, you do a great job to motivate your team to do it, and you encourage it, which I think is great, because I think a lot of SDRs can be a bit scared of doing that. So if it's coming from leadership, from yourself down, then they feel more comfortable. But when do you think is the right timing for them to test things out?
Always sorry. Fell off. Always and often. I don't think there's a wrong time. I mean, don't go and do something crazy at the end of the deal. But if as an SDR leader, BDR leader, you're not really working the end of the pipeline. So always and often, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. I said this earlier, but the worst thing you can do as a BDR is be comfortable. Always be uncomfortable, because the moment that you get comfortable is the moment you should get scared.
Yeah.
You can be comfortable doing your job, but you should always, always, always be on your toes and be uncomfortable. Try new things. I wouldn't say go and rip and replace your entire workflow, but take something from every great BDR, every mediocre BDR, even the lower performing BDRs. Everyone has something to offer that's different. So taking just a little tidbit from someone and trying it. If it doesn't work, if you try it a few times, it doesn't work, don't continue to do it. But you don't want to fix something that's not broken, but you do want to keep that continued learning. And I think that it's really important that they're not afraid to step out of that comfort zone at any point in time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's like finding your own voice in sales, because I know when I first started as an SDR, I felt like, okay, this is what really worked for the person sitting right next to me. And now thinking back, I'm like, that didn't sound like me at all. Like I'm glad someone gave me the advice. I'm glad I tried it. But after a while, I was like, I don't feel comfortable talking this way on the phone or having these certain expressions. So I totally agree with you. Like, yeah, let them test things out. Don't get comfortable. Borrow something from a top rep. If it doesn't feel right to you, then move on and try something else there too that you feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, that's a great point. If it doesn't, don't force it. Don't be inorganic. If it doesn't feel like you, if you feel like you're saying something, you're trying something, you're like, this is weird, I feel really comfortable doing it. Either A, twist it, make it your own, put the Maggie stamp on it, or Maggie feel to it, or B, just drop it, try something else, But I don't think there's a wrong time to be getting creative and trying new things. I think that's extremely important, not only in their career growth, but their personal growth and getting to the next role in their company.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Awesome. And yeah, speaking of, people getting into the role, the SDR role here too. And again, I haven't worked in enterprise, but when looking to hire enterprise sales reps, what are some attributes that sales leaders should look for when hiring like an enterprise rep versus a medium to small business rep?
Yeah, so there's three attributes. I kind of talked about this in the JB Sales Better briefly, but I'm going to touch on three great things that every BDR should have, or every great BDR that I've ever seen has had these traits. That's what I'm trying to get at. But grit, so being able to stand up 7 times, fall down 8, especially in enterprise. You're going to hear no and over and over and over again. You're going to have to be able to use that creativity to take that no and go to the next person and get up and do it again. Next up being coachability, being able to always seek feedback, always be open to receiving feedback and actively seeking feedback. So don't just be complacent and by the side, but actively put yourself out there to seek feedback and get better. And then willingness to learn, wanting to put yourself out there and get better every single day, whether it's from product marketing, product management, product, or just marketing in general, account-based marketing, sales ops, marketing ops, whether it's just looking on Reddit to see what is popular, and LinkedIn, finding new ways, but always being open to learning more. I guess I have a fourth one would be caring. So
Okay.
caring about yourself, especially in the remote world that we work in now, caring about yourself, caring about your colleagues, caring about the product that you're selling. So I would say those are four, I said three, but four traits that every great rep should have, or I've seen has and portrays on a daily basis. But when you're, you know, going between or looking between medium to small business and enterprise, you really need that grit. You need the ability to be able to take no for an answer, and or at least be willing to be coached to get your grit up, you know, and learn to say no. I also think that you should look for hunger, someone who's not afraid to go out there and wants it. They want it not just for the career growth, but for their personal growth. Someone who has goals in mind that they want to reach. And I guess in addition to that, like someone who kind of has some has sales, you know, experience. You need to have some sales experience to be going out and jumping into these companies, because you want to have the power and the willingness to jump into a Shark Tank face first as an enterprise rep. But at the same time, you need to have some background to that, whether that's in the industry knowledge that you're going into or sales knowledge in general, so that you feel comfortable doing it. If you're comfortable doing small and medium, there's no reason, you know, you make yourself uncomfortable. Like I said, you want to be uncomfortable. Get uncomfortable and go try enterprise. Like amp yourself up to the next step. But I think it's really important that they have the grit and the hunger and they want it, because you need to want it to be able to be successful there.
Yeah, absolutely too. Yeah. The grit of it. I mean, any SDR role, but like you said, especially with enterprise, because you know, you may get a no from someone at a company and then you may have to, you know, reach out to someone else, or you're like going through these different barriers where it's not just, hey, this is one sales cycle with the solopreneur or the one sales manager that works there. This is a sales process with like not 14 different people, but you know, like all these different people that may be involved in this complex sales. So that, and then I think care too. I love that you said that at the end, because caring about yourself, caring about your growth, caring about your customers, caring about the product you sell. And I think like I've interviewed other sales leaders about this too. It's like you get in calls sometimes with SDRs, or I have in the past, where it doesn't feel like they really want to be there, and it really shows. Like you can feel it almost. And it's like just so simple. It's simple to say, like, just care. But it really is like, if you're not working at a company, or you're working at a company that you don't care about the product or you don't care about the team, like that's probably going to show up. And one thing I always preach to people is like, if you don't love the software or the service that you sell, like it's going to be really hard to work there and sell it. So look elsewhere kindly.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you really need to be passionate about what you're selling. If you don't, if you feel dry, if you're like, I'm not sure, you're not going to have the conviction. Like, how are you going to sell the tool to someone and convince them that it's worth taking a demo if you don't believe in it yourself, to be honest with you? And I think that, I mean, that doesn't specifically tie in, but I also wanted to touch on the creativity and what we just talked about. Yeah. And the question is, you know, you really need to be creative. You really need to be able to, you know, be uncomfortable and do those creative things and try new things over and over and over again, especially in enterprise sales, because you don't know what's going to get through to someone. You know, it might take 5 sequences and 4 different gifts, or really appealing to their pain point. You need to be really in tune. That's a good way to put it. Really in tune to what the prospect needs and what they're looking for, so you can tell them that we're Bob the Builder and we're going to fix it for you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that we ended with that there. And no, I really appreciate it. Having your insight here, you know, starting as an SDR at ZoomInfo, growing there, growing at Automox. I really, really appreciate you going through this and talking about your experience managing enterprise SDRs, Maggie. But before we finish up today, where can people find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn, Maggie Bacon, bacon like the food. I know that's pretty funny. I also have a Twitter, X0BACONN. I can't say that I go on there much, so best place to find me would definitely be LinkedIn. Connect, add
Awesome.
me, and more than happy to add you back and follow.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much again, Maggie. And thank you everyone for watching another episode of Shake Sales.
Thanks for
Bye.
having